Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
You gotta be kidding.
Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Movie Show. The reason why I sound a bit apprehensive there is because I'm looking at my glass of water and it looks like it has little flunkies swimming around it. Doesn't look very nice at all. I've got to sit here for the next...
Hooray for the magical thing of radio and not video.
Yeah, I've got to sit here for 90 minutes looking at a glass which looks very suspected. I think it's going to kill me. Anyway, we're here to actually review films. I'm Stuart.
I'm Andrew.
And we are live on the 3rd of November, the first show that we have in November. It's very close to the end of the year where we will have to put together our lists. The painful part of the year.
Already?
I know.
We've been, and the thing is, it's one of those moments as well where you start realising you're going to have to go back and start remembering all those awful films.
Yeah, way too many, but we'll get onto that near to the end of the year anyway. It's a good job I've got a list because I think I've seen too many again this year. Anyway, this week...
And I've still got to watch... What's the one I've got to watch for you?
I don't know, but The Other Woman is the one I've got to watch.
Yes.
I'm not looking forward to that. Yeah, anyway, to current films in this week's cinema, we're looking at these films.
We have Michael Bay's production group produced horror in Ouija. We have Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler. We have Daniel Radcliffe in Horns. We have Shia LaBeouf in Necessary Death of Charlie Countryman. We have Aliens in Extraterrestrial, because that's all it kind of says about it. And then we have Mr. Turner.
And in the home release section, we have the most films we've ever reviewed in the home release section ever. They are...
Yeah, we've got not so many this week, but I think this is because of all the loads and loads of comedy DVDs being released for Christmas. But so we've only got these two. We've got The Fault in Our Stars, based on the book, and we've also got then Jon Favreau's sort of cooking culinary wonder that is Chef.
Well, I wouldn't say a wonder, but we'll get onto that in the Blu-ray and DVD section of the show. On top of that, we have our usual TV movies of the week, movies of the week, the Blu-ray and DVD top 10, the UK box office top 10, and some movie news. But as usual, make sure you head over to the website, mondaymovieshow.co.uk. You can check out some trailers and stuff like that. Has the trailer for Fast and Furious 7 gone up yet?
It's not. I have it scheduled to go up there. It's ready to go. I just I haven't got it. I want to make sure I've got it right first. So it will go up there at the end of the show or during the show if I can manage that.
Yeah, it's Fast and Furious 7, remember, in the UK.
No, it's just
Furious 7 in the US. Fast and Furious 7 in the UK.
Really?
Yes, we've been given the full title of Fast and Furious.
That have to be sort of dumbed down for, not the UK.
Yeah, we've been given the title of Fast and Furious 7 in the UK, just like Avengers, that are the assemble on the end, to distinguish itself from a different film with the Avengers title. But in the US, it's called Furious 7. So, yeah, the trailer for that will go up on the website. You can get in contact with us on Twitter, at Monday Movie Show. I'm at Cryptic Tadpole, Andrew's at EHDVD, and Facebook, facebook.com/Monday Movie Show. But let's kick things off with some movie news.
Looking into the Marvel world, which Stuart has a piece we'll go through in a minute, which has quite a lot in it. But not exactly Marvel. Obviously, Fox is the one that has the rights to the X-Men franchise. We're now due to have the X-Men coming back again in X-Men Apocalypse, the next film which will follow on from X-Men Days of Future Past. But there's also been announced that in that will make the appearance of the character Gambit, the much sought after by the fans appearance of Gambit, to be played by Channing Tatum. Who is now also going to be getting his own standalone movie, spinning off after that, similarly to how we've had the Wolverine movies. There's no official confirmation of date or anything of what's happening with that, but it has been said that it will be spinning off from 2016's X-Men Apocalypse, so expect it to be released probably in the next year or so after that.
Yeah, it's going to be handled also by Josh Zuterman, who worked on the RoboCop reboot.
Yeah.
He's going to handle the screenplay.
I mean, I don't have a problem with the RoboCop writing of a separate thing. It's just not RoboCop. So, I don't know if he'd be bad with that, you know.
Yeah, at least it's not like a reboot of a series. It's just a character who's appeared in the X-Men series getting a standalone movie finally. I like Gambit as a character as well. I think he's got a sarcastic quip and wit to him. So I really hope they don't just go overboard with that, because it can become really grating. And it's interesting that they've got Channing Tatum. I wonder if he can do sort of like a New Orleans kind of accent.
I mean, I think he's definitely a better choice than what they had with. I didn't mind. What's his name? The actor who you really kind of don't like after
Ryan Reynolds,
John Carter, and
Taylor Kish.
Battleship. Yeah, Taylor Kish. He played him in the now sort of defunct X-Men Origins Wolverine, and because that movie has now been kind of actually even the people who made it admitted it's no longer considered part of the series. It's that bad.
Yeah, I don't blame them, because it is that bad.
So,
is that it for your news?
That's all I've got for news yet.
Right, we might as well just keep it in the Marvel
list.
universe.
Yeah, because I did forget about that, admittedly. You then called me on it rightly, so take it away with that.
And normally the case, after we do the show, something always breaks, and that's what happened with the Marvel Universe the day after. So on the Tuesday after we did our show last week, well, we did the show on Sunday last week. So a couple of days after we did the show last week, Marvel thought, well, DC have just released a ton of films with release dates. Let's do the same with our universe and trump them completely. Because as of 2017, Marvel will be releasing 3 films a year, which is insane. So in 2016, there is going to be Captain America: The Civil War on May the 6th. Now these are all properly dated as well, so May the 6th, 2016. And November the 4th, 2016, Doctor Strange. In 2017, on May the 5th, you've got Guardians of the Galaxy 2. On July the 28th, there's Thor Ragnarok. And November the 3rd is Black Panther. In 2018, on May the 4th, you've got Avengers Infinity War Part 1. So I wonder if that will clash with one of the Star Wars films with May the 4th.
Nah, I don't think they would be that cheesy to go for that for Star Wars.
Yeah, but it'll be Disney. Disney clashing with themselves. That'll be interesting. And on the 6th of July, you've got Captain Marvel. And on November the 2nd, 2018, there is The Inhumans. And on May the 3rd, 2019, a year later, you've got Avengers Infinity War Part 2. So they're splitting the third Avengers films into 2 parts.
And I mean, I don't have a problem with that, because from what I understand, there is a lot to fit in there. I do think it's weird, though, we've got the two parts of it are being split apart, and then there's other Marvel films being released between the two. I think that's a mistake, 'cause I think fans will be going, I don't want to see this, I want to see the second part of Avengers 3, and so those films that are actually new characters as well, they're not established characters already, I think those will suffer, because people will go, I don't want to see that, I want to see Avengers 3. Or
well,
Avengers 3.5.
Isn't the Inhumans sort of like bad guys in a way?
There's this whole big thing, basically, the Inhumans, I don't know if they're bad guys, I don't really know them, but I know the Inhumans is kind of Marvel's answer to the fact of that they can't do X-Men anymore, because X-Men currently cinematically is owned by Fox, and so Inhumans is kind of their way of doing X-Men without it being X-Men.
And do you think, though, that 5 superhero films a year, at least 5 superhero films a year, is just too much?
I don't, because I think that Marvel has definitely got enough there. Marvel's got a massive catalogue of characters to go through. I just think the problem is they're going to have is when they have got them established, is being able to, because obviously you've got the likes of Iron Man and such. Now they've got issues with, even though they're bringing back Robert Downey Jr. for the next Captain America film, they're having issues then of trying to work out, getting him on contract and stuff to be able to maybe do another Iron Man film, which means then when they start going through that, they're going to have a less diverse selection of characters to be able to go through in those 5 in a year. And I think then you're going to have maybe some repetition of the same characters that people will go, it's too much of that character.
But it's not just down to Marvel, though. You'll have Marvel's slate of films, which they're going to 3 a year as of 2017. Then you'll have DC's. You'll have Fox with the X-Men franchise. You'll have Sony with their Spider-Man expanded universe and that. So you've got 4 different studios releasing superhero films. So that goes from about 5 superhero films to at least 7 a year. That's practically nearly 1 a month. I think that's just way oversaturation of that genre. It's going to become so just generic that they'll all just start to bleed into each other, and it'll just feel like you've come out of one superhero movie and you're going straight into the next one, because there's going to be another Transformers movie interleaved into that somewhere as well by Michael Bay, because he's got his grubby mitts on that area.
Maybe Transformers and Turtles.
Yeah, and so the Turtles. There's another Turtles movie coming out in 2016, so you've got that as well, and then you'll have some other teen fantasy film if the Maze Runner does well enough, which it has. You've got Part 2, which is coming out, and there's another 3 in that series there. You're just gonna it's gonna be a major saturation of that genre, and you think that the horror genre is overdone with their shaky cam found footage stuff. I think it's way too much.
But the thing, here's my take on that. You're saying about obviously the young adult things. As long as the young adult books continue, the other adult book adaptations continue to be as good as they have been. Hunger Games, Divergent, not so much with The Giver, but okay, and Maze Runner. As long as they continue to be that good quality, and then again with the Marvel films. There's not been a Marvel film yet that has been bad. There's been a Marvel film that I wasn't a big fan of, but it was still okay, and that was the second Thor film. And a lot of fans weren't big on the second Iron Man film, but they've still always been successively decent quality. There is skill being put into it. There is work being put into them. They're not just chumming out films that are rubbish and not worth watching. They're showing out films that are good and enjoyable, and they're fun, and they're rewatchable as well. And I think as long as they are, it is quality, not quantity, but we're getting quality in quantity. When that starts to decline, when the quality starts to decline, then there'll be a problem. But until it does, I don't have a problem with that.
The only other problem I see is box office takings is going to be down on each one of the films, because the fact that the people know that in a couple of weeks' time, after, say, for example, seeing Thor Ragnarok, after seeing Thor Ragnarok, there might a couple of weeks' time you might get the next film from DC. So they're going to completely ignore Thor and then go to see DC, rather than Marvel or DC looking at it and going, our film's got a good month in the cinema before we're going to get something to challenge against it. So we know we're going to get takings very clear, very north of 200 million. It's going to harm the takings of these kind of films. It's going to make comic book fans just dead drool, and you'll never see them out of the cinema. But it's going to harm the takings of these films, and it's not going to let us breathe. We're going to have oxygen masks or something like that when we do these shows, because we're just going to be reviewing superhero movies every week.
Yeah, but I mean, as much as it will get a bit repetitive, I don't have a problem, as I say, as long as they keep doing them quality over quantity. That's fine with me.
It seems to be quantity with hopefully quality.
Yeah.
Other little bits of news is Bloody Disgusting have revealed that French directors Julien Moreau and Alexandre Bastilla have been hired to direct Leatherface, the prequel to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is not the first time the directors have been involved in the US horror franchise, as they were supposed to be doing the reboot to Hellraiser after Pascal Laugier dropped out, and Halloween 2 before Rob Zombie got his grubby mitts on it.
I've still not seen any of Rob Zombie's films, actually, since he's done, and I kind of wanted to see what he would do with them, because he, House of a Thousand Corpses and such.
Yeah, House of a Thousand Corpses is a grimy, nasty little movie. These other films are a bit sort of like miss. He's got a movie coming out called 31, which is supposed to be him going back to his absolutely insane ways. Now, the reason why I've included this news here is because of the fact that the Texas Chainsaw 3D was rubbish. It was completely rubbish. It was supposed to be the true sequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I just thought it just failed on every single level. They're getting Julian Moreau and Alexandra Bastillo in to direct Leatherface. Now, I love that because I love the two films that they've done, which is Inside and Livid. They are fantastically grimy, nasty, gory movies, especially Inside. Set at Christmas about a woman who gets a baby stolen out from her stomach, which is fantastic.
Yeah, sounds interesting.
And they've got a film coming out which I cannot wait to see called Among the Living, which is about 3 kids who get locked inside of an abandoned amusement park. And a psychopathic serial killer is stalking them. And it looks really dark. Not overly gory, but dark. And Livid is a very dark film as well. So with those two on board, hopefully they stay and they don't jump ship like they did with Hellraiser and Halloween 2. Hopefully they'll steer and do it, and hopefully it gets back to its dark, gritty roots, because what people don't realise is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre wasn't that gory. There was very little blood and gore in it. It was all about the tension, and they can bring tension, so hopefully it'll get back to its brilliant roots.
This seems to be going back to the thing of what's sort of being said about the Babadook. With that not being so much focused on gore and things, it's more on building tension and keeping tension and sustaining that, and that's what
I think that's what we need with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. Go back to its old original roots. Go back to what Ed Gein was like. Ed Gein, even though he killed a lot of people, which the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is actually based on, it wasn't overly gory. The stuff that has been about him wasn't overly gory, and we need tension rather than just pools of gore. I still love the pools of gore. Final piece of news is Paul Rubin has confirmed that a new Pee Wee Herman film will go into production in 2015. And just to make it worse, Judd Apatow is on board to produce it.
If you didn't get that properly enough, if you didn't get it loud enough, I'll do it right up next to the microphone. And that is... yeah.
UK box office top 10. And at number 10, and you went before, The Babadook, which I really like The Babadook because, as we've just said there, it's a horror film that doesn't rely on the stupid quiet bang or gore. It's just about a mother and son struggling with the turmoil of the fact that they've lost a father, and the son keeps seeing this strange creature called the Babadook. Brilliantly directed by Jennifer Kent, absolutely fantastically acted, very dark, very tense. I was hoping that it was going to be higher in the chart than what it got at number 10. It deserves much better than a couple of the films that we'll get onto regarding horror, if you could call them horror. And number 9 is a new entry for Love, Rosie.
We haven't seen this, but it is another novel adaptation, the original novel by Cecilia Ahern. Basically the thing of it being one of these romantic comedy sort of things that then it's two friends that are then will they, won't they, they go away their separate ways, they won't, and then that kind of thing. And it's not looking like it's bringing anything new to it, but word on it is that it is watchable, good, and above average, and doing well amongst people for that. So, I mean, there's a reason why it's in the top 10, because it's having a pull to it, and then word of mouth is spreading, and it's, I think, surprisingly enough, from what I've heard about it, I don't know that it's going to go any higher or much higher, but I think it might still be around in next week's top 10.
It's annoying, though, that a movie like Love, Rosie, a romantic drama or a romantic comedy, does higher than a horror film released at Halloween. That's the annoying part. Leave this kind of stuff to maybe a few weeks before Halloween, or a couple of weeks after Halloween, or even when you're supposed to be releasing them around Valentine's Day. Keep your holiday to yourself. Give us horror fans the horror that we want to go and see, and let it go up into the chart in places where it deserves, not romantic comedies. And number 8 is a new entry for Bollywood film Happy New Year.
Yeah, this is a film, obviously, Bollywood films we don't get to see, and it looks as if it's kind of like an Ocean's 11 everything else film. With a group of people that have to join a dance team, a dance contest, so they can get into the location they want to get into to do a diamond heist. And it sounds ridiculous. Apparently, it is ridiculous, but it's apparently one of those films. I even heard a review of it from on a review show that someone wrote in and said, "So bad it's good." It's one of those kind of films.
Yeah, I'm sort of like, we keep saying this, but I think we should actually watch at least one Bollywood film.
Yeah, it would be nice to try, but I think it's basically
before the end of the year.
From where we are, it's difficult, and I mean I do get them in Glasgow, but the thing is, when I'm in Glasgow, it's not a case of, oh yeah, what am I in Glasgow to do? I'm here to see a Bollywood film.
You know what I also find interesting though is when you go into any reputable video store or shop that sells movies, do you actually see any Bollywood films on the shelves?
That's the thing. No, I don't think there is that many. Especially, well, you might do in sort of London, because there is obviously the audience. That's the area that the audience will be in. But where we are, I mean, I'm in Scotland. You're in Sunderland,
the northeast of England.
Yeah, so the thing is that there isn't. They put stuff on the shelf like that. They maybe sell one in a couple of months.
Yeah, but the thing is though, there is a shop, a 3-letter word shop, in Newcastle, and it is 3 floors. It's a huge, massive version of the 3-letter word shop. And
they probably will have a small section somewhere. Then I would think
they didn't though.
No,
I had a good look around the shop itself. Because I like to look for the world cinema section. That's my favourite section of those kind of shops. And you wouldn't maybe expect them to be very close to that area, because it's sort of like in keeping with world cinema. It's movies that are not overly always in English, but it should be in that kind of section there. And I didn't find one single Bollywood film. They get distributed by Eros International mainly, but I never see them on Blu-ray and DVD. I never see them advertised on Blu-ray and DVD.
I guess it's probably an online thing. There will probably be a site that does really well out of that and has that as its main sort of UK export.
Just if anybody's listening who knows anywhere that does sell Bollywood films on Blu-ray and DVD, let us know. MondayMovieShow@yahoo.com. Just because I'm intrigued. Yeah, and not just I'm intrigued if you've been into a shop and seen these kind of films on the shelves, no matter where you are in the UK, just to see if anywhere actually sells them. That's more mainstream rather than a small little shop down an alleyway. And number 7 is Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day.
Which I know you only remember the title because you have it written down right in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a typical Disney thing. It's not bad Disney, but it's classic. It's kind of classic Disney, the 80s feel of Disney films. It's not overly long. It's not insulting to anyone. It's one of those generic Disney, be happy, have fun, be kind to everyone sort of thing. And it's not a bad thing because it's okay. It's not brilliant though, and it has moments in it that do make you laugh, and I did laugh at a few of them, not massively, but I wasn't bored for the 80 minutes or so that it runs. It's not very long, so it never kind of gets a chance to outstay its welcome.
Yeah, despite the expansion into much more cinemas, because it got a couple of weeks head start in Scottish cinemas, still hasn't managed to take anywhere near 1 million. 697,680, which is very disappointing.
And I think that's because of the amount of, as we're going on into the rest of the top 10, we'll see the amount of quite quality films there are out there. I think that the top 10 is actually saturated with quality films for a change. I think that's what maybe affected Babadook as well.
Questionable, maybe questionable, with especially the film at number 6, which is Annabelle, which, like what I said with the Babadook, Annabelle is the complete opposite of the Babadook when it comes to horror. This is a movie that relies on stupid, quiet, bang moments. It relies on stupid... If you've watched the trailer, there is a scene where a little girl charges into a door, and then when the door slams open, turns into a woman. It's badly edited, that scene. The way they've stitched it together, it just is... It's like they stopped the little girl at the door, and then they open the door and the woman runs in at exactly that moment. It is just really badly done. The film itself is just boring. There's an interesting premise there involving the character of Annabelle, the weirdly strange doll who nobody should even be interested in buying. Reminded me a lot of the dolls from, the puppets from the James Wan film Dead Silence. But it's pretty boring by the numbers. It's not the worst horror film released in the last few weeks or coming week. We'll get onto that in the review section. But it is pretty generically boring.
Do you think horror has become that it's now become something it wasn't originally? Because, I mean, at the weekend, I did end up going to a drive-in thing, which had on Halloween. And sitting there were cars that were leaving. We ended up leaving already as well, because it was a very slow-building, nothing much happening film, which I think is what people are sort of seeing the Babadook to be, like that kind of old-fashioned style horror film, and they're not interested in it because they think it's too slow.
No, I think we'll get on to a horror film in the review section, which is produced by Michael Bay and Jason Blum. And even though Jason Blum has been the saviour of horror with these micro-budget, well, he's not micro-budget films, he's small-budget horror films with budgets of around about 5-6 million, I think he's to blame for some of this, because these movies, Annabelle is only about an $8 million movie anyway, but because it's an $8 million movie, it's a very sloppily done film. It doesn't reach any heights where movies like The Conjuring, which it's the spin-off from, actually reach any interest in the film, anything original in the film. It just seems to be a paint-by-numbers, ticky-box kind of movie, which is annoying. And number 5 is The Maze Runner,
which I really liked. We're saying about the whole thing we were talking about, films being adapted from teen novels. I think this is very well done. I obviously I've not read the original one, but I think that it's a very nice film, given that it is based on a teen novel. Because there's always that thing of there's things in teen movies that you're watching them and you're going, oh, that didn't need to be in there, or that was too much, or this could be. I think this is quite nicely put together and done, and I find it quite actually. I think it's a bit. They do get away with a lot for a 12A rating. It really does push the limit of what it can do, and I think it's a good late teen novel, not an adaptation, not a teen adaptation, but a late teen novel adaptation, because it's quite a dark film. But I did enjoy it quite a lot, and I hope that because it's doing fairly well for itself, I hope we are going to get to see the further adventures of the characters. Well,
the sequel's already been greenlit. It was greenlit even before we got
but it was always that chance that it was going to, do really badly, and then they go, oh no, forget it, we'll scrap it.
Yeah, very true. Number 4 is a new entry for the Book of Life. Have you seen this yet?
No, I haven't, and I want to see it. I'm kind of annoyed that I haven't had a chance to see it.
Yeah, it's under the production of Guillermo del Toro. It's his production company that's handled it. It's directed by O.A.R. Gutierrez. Guillermo del Toro is brilliant at taking first-time directors under his wings. Look what he did with Juan Antonio Bayona with The Orphanage, and he went on to do the amazing film The Impossible, and also Penny Dreadful, which I absolutely adored, that TV program. And he's going back to horror, which I cannot wait, along with Guillermo del Toro, so both of them are teaming up. So it's a good sign when Del Toro takes the first director under his wing, and the Book of Life is very much like the Del Toro of what people really like to see. You can see his influence scattered throughout the film. The animation is fantastic. It's marionette-like animation where you definitely feel like it is wooden characters rather than animated characters, very much like the Lego movie with the Lego bricks. I still can't believe that some of this stuff is actually animated. It's beautiful to look at. There are elements where it mixes the darkness with absolute gorgeous colour and variety with the characters and the areas that they explore during the film. There are some nice funny moments during the film. It has a little bit of a saggy pace at the first 45 minutes where it's trying to establish the characters, but after that it just goes into its stride, and I really enjoyed the Book of Life. And number 3 is...
I was asking it that. What did you see it in 3D or 2D?
2D.
2D. Was it obviously 3D at any parts, or did it look like the 3D might be any good in it, or what did you think of that?
From what I gathered, I think the 3D might have just been one of those ones where it's tacked on. Okay. Just tack on 3D. I go see it in 2D. Enjoy the
animation. That's a shame because animation is generally one of the best things that does 3D.
Enjoy the vibrant colour in 2D. You'll enjoy the film even more so. And there is a pig who snorts a lot. Who sounds a bit like a sheep, more like it, not a pig. Yeah. And number 3 is Gone Girl.
which is really, really great adaptation of a novel. This one I've not read the book, but I have heard from someone firsthand that it's a great adaptation. It's very faithful. It is, of course, David Fincher, who I'm biased anyway, but I really did love it. I think it's great performances. Rosamund Pike is absolutely fantastic in it. Ben Affleck is great in it, and I don't have a problem with him, but I know people do. But I think he's been quite proven to be doing a good job in this, considering that it's now taken near £20 million in the UK, which is no small thing, because rarely do you get a film that gets closer to having 20 million in the bank and still be in the top 5 films.
Yeah, very, very close to being the highest grossing 18 rated film at the UK box office of all time.
Yeah.
So that's seeing a lot of that. Very well done to David Fincher. I think it's one of his most successful films outside of like making big films.
It shows well. I mean, directors like him and Christopher Nolan, who are all about getting the right shot, getting it. They prove that it is a visual medium, and if you make the visual medium interesting, even people who aren't particularly schooled in the look of cinema, they get more out of it because they're looking at it. They're visually entertained. Because I mean, David Fincher was in an interview recently talking about it and saying about the fact that his films are quite well known for always ending up running over budget because of the fact that he gets on set, gets it set up perfectly, then films it and does loads and loads and loads of takes. And he has this view that he said in the interview of, you spent $60 million, whatever you spent on it so far. Why do you want to rush it and get just an average thing when you spent all this money, spend the time, get it perfectly right as you want it? And I think that speaks volumes with his work.
Obviously, apart from Alien 3, but we'll let him off with Alien 3.
I'll be here all night talking about that if we go into that. So.
Yeah, it was brought onto that project practically near to its. It was born practically that project.
He had no experience behind it, nothing behind him to say, look back to and go, look, I've done this as well, because that was his first big film. So
yeah, I still thought it turned out very competent anyway, and I quite like Alien 3 to be honest.
The Alien films.
No, God, no, I won't go that far, but it is okay. And number 2 is TMNT, or the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah, which is okay. I'm going to say this: it's not as bad as it could have been, and I don't mean that as an apologist thing. I don't mean that saying making up for it. It is a Michael Bay influenced, produced thing. There's so many elements during it that are you could literally sit there with a tick box, go yep, and you go like a list of Michael Bay isms, and they're all in there in quantity as well. But it has its moments. It's not bad. It's generally entertaining for a couple of big action set pieces. It's funny at moments. It's a little bit creepy in some parts, but it's a not bad, less than 2 hours entertainment as well. So it doesn't stick around too long for compared to other Michael Bay influenced films recently. And it's not. That's not a thing saying go and see it. You'll love it, but go and see it. You might actually find that you walk out going, it's not anywhere near as bad as I expected. But don't blame us if you hate it. Yeah. At number 1 is Innuendo for Fury. Yeah, which I really did enjoy. I think it's a great horror sort of war film. It is great when it's got these moments in it when they're in the tank, but it's David Ayer he's doing a different genre, but he's not really doing anything different because it's all about the camaraderie of the team, of the people, the chat between them and such, which he's done in loads of films before. All these ones that feature police and sort of policemen and teams like that. So he's good at that. He knows he's good at that, and he sticks to that. And it's at its best when it has these moments with the guys in the tank in their cramped situations, and especially during sequences when they're sort of fighting off against enemy tanks and such and risking life and limb. But it does have problems where then it slows down every now and again and has these scenes which you kind of sitting there and it goes off the tracks well and truly for a while in the middle at one point, and it just feels as if that was been sort of put in there just to go, oh, David Ayer can do something different. And the thing is, he kind of can't, because those scenes don't work. And I'm not seen it yet. I was planning to go and see it, but I've had no time to go and see it, so I've not seen it yet. It is good. It's one of those ones, though, to see big and loud,
because it is a loud film for those moments, and then it has its quiet moments after it, so you get that effect of, you know, the big loud horror of war, and then the moment afterwards when characters sort of sit there for a moment, realising what they've just been through, take it in, and kind of have a little mini sort of meltdown. And that's what's really good, is that there's these moments in there for the characters.
No, I'm saving my big and loud for a film that we're reviewing next week.
Yeah.
Right, onto the films that we're reviewing this week. First out of the gate is Ouija. It's directed by Stills White, and it's produced by Michael Bay and Jason Blum. So both of their production companies have come together to probably split the budget in half, 4 million there, 4 million there. And it centres around two friends who they've grew up together, and they decide to stupidly use a Ouija board. Now, Ouija boards, you could easily go into any toy shop and pick up a Ouija board. They were originally a board game until the Catholic Church had a problem with it in the 70s and decided to ask them to be banned. And so people can still get hold of them now, as they believe that they can contact the dead, when we know it's probably bull squat, to be honest. But it's two friends who set up rules. So at the start of the film, you get these rules set up where you're not supposed to use the Ouija board on its own. Once you finish using the Ouija board, you've got to say goodbye. So there's goodbye written on the bottom. You've got to bring it down to that. And you've got to say a specific saying during that. Now, the girls have grown up, and one of the girls, who's played by Olivia Cooke, finds out that a friend has used the Ouija board on her own and unfortunately turns up dead.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Sorry.
And again. Brilliant. So a friend, nice way to actually sneeze as well when on the bit where I said one of her friends has turned up dead.
I was trying to hold it off as long as I could till we get to the point where you're playing the clip, but
there is a mute button.
I can't do it though because of the way it's set up. I would mute you as well.
No, you can mute yourself. You can mute. But yeah, so her friend turns up dead, hung in her house, and obviously she's really distraught, and she comes up with an idea when she finds out that her friend did use a Ouija board to contact the dead, that I wonder if we could get a group of people together, go to the house where it happened, and see if we can contact her via the means of the Ouija board. Here's a clip.
As friends we've gathered, hearts are true. Spirits near we call to you. If there's a presence here, please make yourself known.
This is a joke.
Come on, you guys. Who's doing that?
Is there something you want to tell us? Sarah, cut it out.
I'm not pushing it.
Who is this? Sarah, if that's you pretending to be Debbie, then that's really messed up.
I swear it's not me, all right?
Hey, this is freaking me out. Let's just stop it now.
I'm sorry. Just put your hand back, please.
Guys, calm down. It's an old house.
So, yeah, you've heard the typical stuff that you would normally expect in this kind of film, and you can probably guess where the movie is going, because this film is generic beyond belief. Right at the start of the film, and right at the start of the review, I said they set up rules. And you can obviously guess what happens. One of the rules is instantly broken, and it's never actually said about in the film at all. The main rule where you're supposed to say goodbye. Goodbye is written in big black letters at the bottom of the Ouija board. And even during that clip there, when they're trying to contact their friend, they never bring the little, whatever it is, the little piece with the little eyeglass in the middle. They never bring that down to the bottom of the board and say goodbye. And they wonder why a maniac demon is on the loose trying to possess them and kill them. Because they didn't stupidly follow a rule which they set up at the first 2 minutes of the film, and the director and producers think that we might miss it. When you do it multiple times in a film, nobody is going to miss it. The thing is, though, that's not just the main problem of the film. The acting is terrible, but what do you expect? You're not going to get brilliant acting in a can for a film like this. It's completely devoid of any scares whatsoever, because it's just a very straightforward, normal, boring film until it realises we're a horror movie. We've got to include horror in the film. And it doesn't include the horror in the film until Lynn Shear pops up. They need to get an actress who's really good at this kind of film to be in the movie, just to elevate it slightly. It reminded me a lot of, you know, when Scream came out and we got these copycat films like I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is not bad. And then we started getting a deluge of movies like Cherry Falls and Cursed and things like that. The movies which were so bad it gave horror a bad name. This feels like it's from that era, from the very early noughties. I think the very early noughties was the worst time of horror, not the 90s. From I would say about 2000 to 2005, that was the worst time to be a horror fan because it was so generic, it was just laughable. This belongs to that. It's beyond a step back for the genre. This is the stuff that would make people laugh rather than being scared. It's bad. It's bad beyond bad.
Okay, I mean, I was wanting to ask about this as well because does it have the whole thing because it's produced? Is it actually produced by Michael Bay or is it just by his production company? Because does it have like you were saying about Turtles in the top 10? Turtles has so many things in it that are purely Michael Bay. That even though he didn't direct it, is this the same? Does it have loads of Michael Bay things in it that are just going, ugh, yeah?
It sort of reminded you of when Michael Bay started his production company to originally just do remakes of horror films, and he was getting first-time directors into it, and how a lot of people didn't take to those horror films because they thought they were lacking in any of the originality from the original versions of those films. I think that's where Michael Bay's influence lies. But it's annoying, like I said, in the top 10. Jason Blum is both become the saviour of horror, and he's sort of like becoming the person who's damaging horror. Because there are so many films that copycatting each other of his movies that he's producing that it's just becoming one big massive mess. You'll start to forget the good that he's done for horror and only remember the annoyance like Ouija. Which is a really bad thing to do when he has become a person who can show you that he can do a film for $5 million and get taken 10, 15 times that. It's just destroying what he's creating because he's just attaching himself to stuff like this.
Okay. I'll go on to my big film of the week, which is Nightcrawler. It is written and directed by Dan Gilroy, who is brother of Tony Gilroy, who will be familiar to a lot of people from things like the Bourne films, who wrote all of those and directed the last one. This, though, is not anything to do with Bourne. It is let's basically say it's a gritty drama, sort of thriller drama, following the character of Lewis Bloom, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, who, as we're introduced to him at the start, you kind of get the idea very early on, and you realise is a character of, let's put it kind of as low sort of ethical, moral standing. We start out with him basically having just beaten up someone, stolen their watch. He's then taking sort of stolen metals and things to a place to sell them because he needs money. He's looking to find a job. When he stumbles upon a car crash scene, gets out of his car, has a look, is sort of curious what's going on. When he turns and sees a couple of cameramen sort of turn up in their van, jump out, run over and record a scene of basically a policeman pulling a woman out of a car as it's burning and about to explode and such, and they're pulling this woman out, and these cameramen are right in their faces, getting the grisly details of it all. He speaks to one of the cameramen, played by Bill Paxton, who sort of explains the whole thing of, he even says that the phrase which has been heard before, but it applies to the whole thing of if it bleeds, it leads. That this is the whole thing of, the news reporting and the way that it's done, especially in where this is set, Los Angeles, that if, you get these people that are called stringers that go out, basically run around, look out for things that are happening and get them there and then, getting quick, get the footage and then go on to sell it on to the news studio that want it for the next morning's morning news. So of course Lewis sees this thing, thinks this is an opportunity, he can do this, it's something like that, gets into it and then finds himself in a situation where he becomes a stringer and learning how to do it, but also again with his very low moral sort of standards that he's got. Here's a clip.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, that's a great piece of tape.
You didn't get an interview with the couple?
I have footage of them.
I have an interview with a neighbor. She curses, but you can cut that out.
How did you get inside the house?
The door was open.
They allowed you.
Well, I heard somebody yell to come in, and when nobody was inside, I left.
And the only shot of the couple is through a window.
The police were shutting it down.
No, I don't like it.
Like what?
The footage looks like he broke in. There's no close-up of the homeowners, and he's giving us their name off a piece of private correspondence.
Excuse me, that's junk mail.
Well, I have a problem with that.
We'll knock out a killer package.
This is my job.
No! Your job's writing the tweet of the day and getting Deb to turn sideways during the weather forecast. We're running it.
You heard in that clip there, Rene Russo, who plays one of the producers of a morning news thing, who he becomes sort of, he sets up this weird sort of relationship with her through this job that he's got and set himself up. The thing with Nightcrawler is, it is, let's put it this way, it's a very, very gritty look at the world of reporting television and such, but not from the whole thing of, you have the view of the news and the studio and stuff. It has nothing of that. There are little glimpses of that, but it's not about that. It's about this character who finds himself in this way and uses his basically psychopathic tendencies, his sociopathic tendencies. He's a real dirty character, low-down character, and manipulates things. You get sort of the thing of that. Then he starts getting there. His first scene that he gets to and finds a situation, and he starts taking the pictures, and then he realises, this would look better if I move these photos next to these gunshots, so it's all in the shot and it stages it more. Then he gets to another crash scene. There's a car crash where the guy's been thrown out of his vehicle and he's not in shot, so he drags the body into place, so the body is next to the car and it's all in one shot, and he gets a big cinematic look through it, and it's then it goes on and on like that, and he starts to manipulate events, and it's a very, very dirty, dark look at the fact of this is how news works in some situations. It is a brilliant performance from Jake Gyllenhaal, who's absolutely fantastic in it. He's so dark and done and dirty and a horrible character, but interesting in that he's, as I say, very, very low moral fibre in this character, but you still find him very interesting and wondering what he's going to do next. And it's that kind of whole thing of when you're looking at the news, you see something that's really bad, you go, it's so horrible, but I can't turn away, sort of thing. There's these moments in it that are genuinely kind of gut-churning in his behaviour and things that he does, and especially towards the end, there's a particular scene which is kind of, you're sitting there and you kind of, you want to do harm to this character because he's such a downright despicable, horrible person. But it's just that's what his character is, and that's what makes it such an interesting and very disturbing but entertaining piece of film. It's really, I really enjoyed it. I saw it with my other half, who was quite creeped out by the character, and afterwards made the comment of feeling particularly dirty after having seen it, which I completely get. There is that to it, but I think it's a very well done and very well written, a very gritty thriller drama. And I look forward to seeing what Dan Gilroy will do in the future, because it's a very nicely done piece of work.
Yeah, I've seen Nightcrawler as well, and the character is meant to be, it is meant to make you feel really sick.
Yeah,
that's what his intention is. He's not somebody who you need to. Normally, when you watch films, you need to try and latch yourself onto a character and try to like that character throughout the film itself. And in this film, it's really hard to do that because there aren't those kind of people out there. If you go away from Jake Gyllenhaal's character, for instance, if you go to Rene Russo's one, who's the head of the TV studio, you can't latch yourself onto her as a nice character because she's there to try and just show the grimness of what society is actually like, show you the truth of what it's like, rather than you're just looking at it through tinted glasses. The kind of news that we get in this country. We get it so filtered and so manipulated, it's really hard to see the truth. And that's her job. She wants to show the truth. And so there isn't any bright character in the film. And it's a hard thing to get that across in a movie, because you will always look for the nice person. And there is a nice person in this film in the form of Gyllenhaal's sort of like buddy who goes alongside him. He hasn't got a job, and then he does end up getting working with Gyllenhaal's character, and he gets trained up, and you sort of feel a little bit sorry for him in the fact that he hasn't had much of a way of life, and now he's got a job in the form of a cameraman practically. So he's sort of like the little bright spark in there, but it's a dark, nasty movie, and Gyllenhaal reminded me a lot of Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal Lecter was sort of like reeled back. He was kept behind bars. This is what it would have been like if Hannibal Lecter was completely set free in something like Silence of the Lambs. He's not like a person who instantly goes for the jugular, but he's a very smart, controlled person, even though he doesn't look it. He looks very stoic in the way he goes about. He's got this smile on his face every single time he's bringing across his point, because he knows he's confident in what he's saying, and what he's saying he believes is the truth. When we know, when we're watching it from an outside view, it's very manipulative, and what he's doing is just getting everything the way he wants it rather than the right way. And so the film is dark. There are moments in the movie which makes you think, did they really actually do that? And that's what's been happening with films over the last, I would say this year especially. We have been getting films where they've been pushing the boundaries a lot. If you look at the 15 rated, 15 rating, it's been pushing the boundaries of 15 ratings a lot. Even if you look into the 18 rating with Gone Girl, there's elements of Gone Girl which is really nasty, and they went that far. And it's nice to see cinema be brave and go that far again. And this is Gyllenhaal at his best. He's a brilliant actor anyway. I love Gyllenhaal. There's a film I'm hoping that will get a release over here called Enemy, which I've seen, and I think it's fantastic. But Gyllenhaal has always been a favourite actor of mine, and anything that he's in, he brings an air of grace to it. And so I really like Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler is definitely going to be up there in my top films of the year.
It is fantastic, and like you're saying about the rating, I was going to say it's a 15, but it feels in so many ways and parts of it that it is almost like an 18. It really does walk that line very, very tightly. There's a couple of moments in it which are, I don't know if shocking is the right word, but it genuinely it makes you go, gasp and go, oh my god, sort of thing, and you're not really entirely prepared for that at 15 even.
Especially the house scene. One of the last scenes of the film itself, where he's going around the house and he's just filming everything. I was completely on the edge of my seat on that scene. The way the camera flows around and you get seeing every little tiny thing. Again, it harks back to the way the news is actually filtered. We've seen it completely raw and uncut, and how they would get it before they manipulate and change it around. So we see what we see now. We're actually seeing the raw, uncut footage of that kind of stuff, and so there are elements to when the camera goes into shots, you're going, please don't, and then you just get a slight little sigh of relief when it doesn't do what you think it might do.
Yeah, especially in that scene,
Yep, definitely. Right, next up, Horns. It's directed by Alexandre Aja, and it's based on a book by Joe Hill, which is Stephen King's son. Of the same name, Horns. It stars Daniel Radcliffe, who plays Ig. And the start of the film, his girlfriend, who's played by Juno Temple Mirren, is killed. She's found hung from a tree, and it's later found out that the fact that she was raped and she was hung there, and he gets the blame. And so one morning he wakes up and he discovers these couple of little bumps on his head. And all of a sudden these bumps start growing, and people in the town start acting strangely, where they start confessing their strange desires, their truths, any kind of thing that they keep hidden in a basement or under lock and key. They start to divulge it, and everything starts to get released. But all he wants to find out is who killed his girlfriend, because he knows he didn't do it. Yet the town don't believe that he didn't do it. And there's only a couple of people who think that he might not be responsible. And all the while, these horns are growing bigger and bigger, and people's darkness is starting to creep out. And here's a clip which even explains that, involving a priest.
Get away from me.
No.
Leave me alone.
No, I'm not here to hurt you. Please, tell me what I have to do to stop this. How do I make them go away?
Look, you killed that innocent girl, Marin. There's nothing I can do.
No, except I didn't kill her.
Leave me alone.
I didn't kill her, Father, and now people are telling me all these things I don't want to hear. I mean, there must be a prayer you could say. I'll try anything.
You did this to yourself.
What?
You turned away from God, and you cast yourself into the darkness.
But I didn't do anything wrong.
Every devil used to be an angel, and now you've fallen from grace forever. When Satan was banished from heaven, he was cursed to crawl the earth like a snake. There's no hope for you.
What? So that's it? There's nothing you can do for me?
I've got a rope in that shed over there. I could take you out to that tree where Marin died, and I... I could string you up.
And I'm not going to delve into the story anymore because the whole point of the movie is to try and discover who supposedly killed Ig's girlfriend. Now, the thing with Horns is Alexandre Aja is a very brave director. He's a director who does not take any slack for what he does. If you look at the remake of The Hills Have Eyes, it's really gritty and grimy and nasty and dark and very, very violent. And then he takes an actor in the form of Elijah Wood and puts him in Maniac. Now, a lot of people hated Maniac, but I really liked Maniac because it was such a brave film to do what...
Talking of down, dark and gritty.
Yeah, it's a brave film. So Alexandre Aja, when you go into series films, you know you're not going to expect to see anything very straightforward, and that's the case with Horns. It's not a straightforward film because the way a lot of people will look at the movie is they'll think he's taken numerous genres, meshed them together, and not been successful in any one of them. Now, the way I look at the film is I think he's taken many genres, he's meshed them together, and he has made it successful, and that's down to Daniel Radcliffe, because he's got his cast on spot on. Daniel Radcliffe is fantastic in the film, because he instantly switches from somebody who is supposedly you have to not like, because you think he might have killed his girlfriend, to somebody who you need to like and you need to feel sorry for because he's been badly treated, to somebody who you laugh with when he does manage to manipulate the people because of these horns to tell them the truth that they're coming out with. And some of the truths that they do is just, it's you looking at people. You'll never look at anybody ever again in a normal fashion because you're thinking to yourself, what secrets are you hiding? Like, there's the scene where he would normally get a drink in a bar, and then once he gets these horns, the barman goes, I've always wanted to just set fire to this bar and get the insurance. So he does. He pours liquor on top of the bar and sets it on fire. There is another scene which involves two police officers who sort of like had an attraction with each other, and these horns manipulate them and they go at it. To male police officers, to be honest. Oh. But they go at it, but it's done in such a humorous way that the smirk on his character, on Ig's face, is just the way you would look at it as well. The fact that he's manipulated, because they're supposedly these police officers who are sort of like think that they're above the law and everything that they do, everybody's got to listen to them. Yet they've got this dark secret, their lust for each other. He's brought it out on them, and he finds that funny because he's found their weakness. And so the film is very smart. The film is very witty. The film is very dark. It's humorous. I really liked it, but it is a Marmite film. You'll either like it or you will not get it at all. And I got it, and I really liked it. And Daniel Radcliffe is really good in it. He's sort of like pushed away his Harry Potter persona. And after doing things like Equus and the film that he did earlier on this year with Kill Your Darlings, after doing something like that.
I also did that comedy earlier as well, which I saw in the year, which is the comedy love thing, which was a bit hit and miss, really. Yeah,
but he is showing that he's not the kid that he was in the Harry Potter series. He is somebody who can do loads of different things. And under the guise of Aja's brought out Daniel Radcliffe's nasty side. So I wonder who he'll do it with next, because he's done it with Elijah Wood. Elijah Wood was the gleaming hobbit character in Lord of the Rings. He's done it with Harry Potter now. Who's he going to do it with next? Turn them from being really sparkly to somebody nasty? I think he should actually direct Shia LaBeouf and stop him from being an annoying little prick.
Well, it's interesting going to Shia LaBeouf and also the Harry Potter thing, because I'll get to that in a minute. Why? Necessary Death of Charlie Countryman, which stars Shia LaBeouf. It's directed by Frederick Bond. It's now, this is a weird one, but I'm going to explain it. Okay, it's a film where it starts off at the beginning. He is there, and his I'm not sure if it's supposed to be his brother or his father. It's never really explained. But him and a character played by Vincent D'Onofrio in a very small cameo go to hospital and see his mother, who is in hospital and dying, and she's actually in a life support machine, so she can't talk or anything. She passes away. This is just the opening, and then appears to him in the form of a ghost outside in the hallway, and she says to him, I want you to go to Bucharest. And he's kind of in a bit of a daze. He has taken a pill just before that, and he goes, okay, and he does this, gets on a plane, flying to Bucharest, he sits next to a guy who ends up talking with a bit, explaining that situation, and then unfortunately this guy passes away as well. And then he sees again though this guy after he's dead saying, you know, go see my daughter who they've been talking about and tell her I said this, and says he gets there. He finds his daughter, played by Evan Rachel Wood, and he explains the situation surrounding her father's death. Here's a clip.
Can you tell me what happened with my father?
He fell asleep. And, that was it. He just didn't wake up. On me, actually. He was... If you just look here. There's a drool right here. Your father wanted me to tell you something.
I don't understand how could he know we would meet?
Well, he said something about you to me. If you want to hear it.
Please.
He said that you were his fatate, fatate cattle, picante?
Fetița cu picioare de
Yes.
quetzal.
Yes.
He said that, really?
What does that mean?
She has feet of a childish dog woman.
Puppy fit girl.
So, this is then entryway of him then being in Bucharest, meeting her, Gabby, this girl, and he kind of then starts to fall in love with her, but also then because she has connections to the sort of the underworld of Bucharest with a character introduced, played by Mads Mikkelsen, and that's where it kind of starts to go really wobbling and go off on one, because it's this weird thing as well. Then he ends up staying in this this hostel sort of place where he meets characters, and he ends up rooming with characters played by James Buckley from The Inbetweeners and Rupert Grint, who was in Harry Potter.
Brilliant.
And that's what I was saying, the weird connection thing there. And it goes in this weird thing where he's dealing with all these things of Gabby and this character Nigel, played by Mads Mikkelsen, and then these other two sort of friends that he's now made and met there, and dealing with that. And it's kind of all over the place, and it really sort of falls apart then. It has major problems, and it doesn't know what it's doing. And the problem is as well, those scenes I explained to you there, it sounds like it's something out of a weird comedy of, you know, that happens, his mother dies, he gets on a plane, and the guy sitting next to him then dies as well, and it has this kind of, you think it's had this weird sort of comedy twist to it, and it doesn't. It plays it all straight. It does it as a drama, and at first it seems as if this is going to work out okay, and it kind of works for those moments, and then it gets to the bits when you get introduced to the James Buckley and Rupert Grint characters, and things happen, and you're just going, really? You sure this wasn't meant to be a comedy? Because it's trying to do things that are being funny, and it's doing them seriously, and you kind of watching it going, I don't know whether I'm meant to be laughing or sitting there worried for the characters. And the thing is, neither of them. I'm literally sort of watching it and going, what? Really? You're doing that? And the characters are... Shia LaBeouf is looks a complete mess, and I mean looks like a complete mess. It looks as if he's been sleeping on the streets for the last month. It has Mads Mikkelsen in it, who's playing weird and just kind of one-track psychopathic, you know.
So playing Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah. Evan Rachel Wood is just terrible in it. She's doing this weird European accent. You heard it in that clip there, and it's just awful. And she's literally the only female in the whole film, apart from it having loads of scenes. There is, I'm not kidding as well, one scene where James Buckley's character spikes Shia LaBeouf's drink, and then all of a sudden he goes, you know, what do you want to do? And he goes, I'd just love to be sitting in a room surrounded by naked women. And the next minute, you know, there is the room they're in, which has loads of women in it. All of a sudden, the women are all naked, and it's, you kind of sit watching it going, what? And literally double taking the screen, going, looking at what am I watching? Is this again comedy, or is it meant to be erotic, or is it meant to be serious, or you know, pick a tone and stick with it and do it, and then focus on what you're going to do about your character and your story, because it doesn't go anywhere. It's just a complete mess, and the only reason I can think it got a cinematic release is because of the fact that it's got Shia LaBeouf in it, because it's got a fairly big release. It's got this is showing at my local cinema, which never gets things really on its opening week unless they're a fairly big film, and they have this, and I was kind of, afterwards I walked out going, looking at it going, you know, we couldn't get,
I want a refund.
I mean, they don't have I really wanted to see Mr. Turner this week, and I'm reviewing that up later on. And I had to travel further away to see Mr. Turner than I did to see this. And I kind of walked out and going, you showed that, but you're not showing Mr. Turner? And the kind of thing, what? Just what?
Okay, so that's what's actually going to go on the poster. What? Just what?
Yeah.
Just for people
that poster, and the thing is, that would make sense more than the film.
For people who's in the US, it is on US Netflix.
I think it's just called Charlie Countryman over there as well. It's not called the Necessary Death of Charlie Countryman.
It's called Charlie Countryman over there, but it is definitely on US Netflix. So if you're in the US, you can watch it there. If you're in the UK, you can get US Netflix nefariously, but we don't condone that kind of thing. Well, it's not nefariously. It's the way you can change your DNS, but we're not going to explore that.
You mean I could have saved myself going and sitting in a cinema watching this with there was 3 people in it.
Pretty much. And any bits, each one of those 3 people were scratching their heads. You probably looked like the 3 wise monkeys. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil.
Infinitely less number of people watching that, incidentally, than Mr. Turner, which was quite a packed, though older, but packed crowd.
Yeah, because any bets they actually know what taste is. Next up is Extraterrestrial. It's directed by Colin Minihan, one half of the Vicious Brothers. They're not actually brothers. They just called themselves the Vicious Brothers. They're from Canada. Their previous film was Grave Encounters, which was a shaky cam found footage movie released direct to DVD. So this one has managed to get a decent enough theatrical release. I think it's like 100 plus screens, but not like north of 100 plus. And it's a very stereotypical movie. It follows a group of people who are going to a cabin in the woods. Yeah, the usual cabin in the woods thing. They go in there.
Hang on. I've seen this one before.
I haven't. They go in there to help a friend after her parents have actually divorced.
Not having a drug problem by any chance, no.
She actually doesn't have a drug problem, but their friends. One of them is an annoyance person. They're a very stereotypical group. And would you believe it? They see a crash. A big, huge, massive explosion, and instead of just staying where they are in the nice, comfortable cabin, they go to investigate it. What the big explosion, and lo and behold, it turns out to be a big, huge, massive spaceship that has aliens in it. These aliens hunt them down and try to kill them. That's it. That is honestly the premise of Extraterrestrial. It's a bit laughable because it's just head-scratchingly just laughable, to be honest. The fact that their first film, Grave Encounters, didn't get a theatrical release, yet this did. It makes me wonder who manages to distribute these films, because Grave Encounters, even though it's a shaky cam film, is much better than Extraterrestrial. The characters in this are so one-dimensional, it's funny. There is the typical alien probe scenes. There is an alien probe scene. It's overly extended the film itself. The film, it feels like it's on for 2.5 hours, when in fact you only get to the 90-minute mark when you get onto the alien spacecraft, and then you only get 15 minutes after that. So it doesn't even get past the 2 hours, yet it feels like it's on for 2.5 hours. It's the only thing that's interesting about the film itself is the special effects. They're handled really well. The Vicious Brothers have got an eye for special effects, and we've seen that before, because if you look at the directors of Skyline, they worked on Alien vs Predator and Alien vs Predator 2, and they were special effects artists, and so they had a good eye for special effects, not for anything else. The Vicious Brothers have got good eye for special effects and absolutely nothing else. Just watch E.T. or something like that instead.
Okay, talking about 2.5 hours, because 2.5 hours long is a long film, and that's actually how long Mr. Turner is. It's written and directed by Michael Lee. Lee. I can never. It's Lee, isn't it? Mike Lee. Yeah. It is the sort of biographical telling of later in life the artist J.W.M. Turner. Played the movie by Timothy Spall, which is the reason why it's focusing later in his life, because Timothy Spall is the age that he is now. It's a it's a film though that kind of focuses on more on him, the character, him, the person, than him, the painter. Incidentally, you have scenes obviously where he's painting. You have scenes where he is going somewhere to find a place away, and he can sort of recluse himself in this in a room that he rents, and then he can sort of do these drawings on his pad, which he basically goes out, does drawings on his notepads, finds them, and then goes home and paints from the drawing pad and his memory and such. And it's not really so much focusing on the artist as it is focusing on the person. You have this whole thing of him being he has this a woman who is his wife and his 2 daughters, and one of them comes along and introduces him to his granddaughter, who he never sees them. He sort of leaves them and doesn't take care of them, doesn't support them. He is then also living with his father, and his relationship with his father is very good. He's having a weird relationship with his father's sort of housekeeper. He has a relationship with a woman who he meets and carries on sort of her keeping her as sort of a kind of a mistress, and it's a very sort of weird focus on this, and at times then interjected with weird moments where he is painting with a weird style. He has this very odd looking painting, and he uses sort of spit. You see moments where he's actually spitting as he's painting, and it's very, very sort of graphic in the way that he does things, and the character he's this very sort of kind of flamboyant, but a lot of the time when he's talking, someone will say something and his response will be to just go yeah, or just grunt or something like that. But it has these moments in it that are great when he's meeting people and talking with people, and it's very fun with those moments because of the way the camera is moving, and also the way that he is sort of interacting with them back and forth. Here's one of the clips where he actually goes to see some of the paintings that he's done, and with other people's, as they're all being sort of set up, people adding their final touches to them in a big sort of room gallery where people will be able to view them. Here's a clip.
Good morning, Mr. Turner.
Morning to Billy Gussie.
Good, thank you.
Delighted you could join us.
Damn fine spectacle this year, Billy.
Mm-hmm. Aha! A very fine day to you, Mr. Stoddart.
Mr. Turner, sir.
Constable. Turner. Jonesy, Carlo,
William.
the hanging committee.
You approve?
Tis well, Aunt.
Grazie.
Pray go.
Would everything be to your satisfaction, Mr. Turner?
It is indeed, Mr. President. There's a splendid cornucopia.
Cornucopia?
Good morning, Turner.
Good morning to you, Mr. Leslie. Rabbi.
Good morning, Mr. Turner.
May I have a piece? Where is it located?
We placed it in the anteroom.
The anteroom.
So it's a fun film. You have these moments like that in that scene there, you can't obviously see it, but the camera's moving around, it's looking at all these paintings while he's looking at them and perusing them and having his look and his comments and such, and you can tell from the way he's looking at them, how he feels about them and such. And there's a lot goes into it. It's a very well put together film. It's got lots of depth in the look of it as well as the character, and I like it for that. The one problem I have is just this running time of the 2.5 hours film. It literally is 2.5 hours. It's 150 minutes, and it's just too long. It is a good half hour, maybe even 40 minutes too long. It could have had some trimming bits here and there. Could have had some scenes taken out altogether, and it's a shame that it hasn't been trimmed more, and I think it would have been improved better. I think Timothy Spall, who is playing the main character, is fantastic in it. He's a really great performance in it, and honestly so moving at times that you are kind of connect with the character, even though there's moments where you kind of think, he's not a particularly nice character, he's not a particularly nice person, but you still like him, you still care for him, and see some things he goes through and such. And it's a brilliantly put together film. Just needed more work done on cutting down the time, because it's just overindulgent with that, and that's the only thing I can say about it that's bad. It's not going to be to everyone's taste, because it is a drama and focuses on a lot more of his life and such than you would expect, I think. But that's possibly what needs to be taken out of the film and cut out, so that it doesn't feel so overly long. It's just too long.
I think that's what a lot of people might say about this show. I think we might just be a little bit too long and we need to cut a few bits and bobs down. If you do, then I hate you. Right, that's it for the cinema section of the show. We will be back in a moment where Andy will be taking control and shutting me up for the home release section.
From page to screen.
So they have 9 times out of 10 they have to send it back to you unopened or just throw it in the garbage can.
Things don't always look exactly as we envision our life to look, but sometimes it works out and turns out even better.
Gregor Fisher, his bacon number is 2 because he was appeared with January Jones in Love Actually, and January Jones and Kevin Bacon appeared in X-Men First Class together.
I've got to say, the very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas now, that just makes me want to rush out.
It's about the acting and about the writing. That's really what theatre is for me.
Probably had more names than Prince or whatever. Never mind, there's a joke for the oldies. It'd be like, who's Prince? Who's he? I'd just like to see Mr. Freeze hiring his bad guys going, right, okay, so you're a psycho, right, can you ice skate? Head over to iTunes, Spreaker and Stitcher and put in the search box From Page to Screen.
And we're back with this week's Monday Movie Show look at the DVD and Blu-ray releases in our home section. Not a lot to go through this week, only a couple of films, which are...
So it will not actually be longer than we thought, this show. I was just giving you a little stat there, didn't I, before we came back. The fact that the longest show we've done since we've gone to this kind of format is just over 2 hours.
Yeah, we're not going to reach that tonight, I don't think, but...
No, not with these.
Try and switch it out, but I don't really want to be honest.
Yeah, not with these 2 films. And the fact that romantic drama starring Shailene Woodley and Ansel Elgort. I've been trying my best to remember that actor's name. In The Fault in Our Stars, and Jon Favreau writes, directs, and stars in cooking, comedy, drama. Chef.
Also should mention a couple other releases which we will talk about briefly at the end of those reviews, because they're not really new releases, but they kind of are. But first, let's go and have a look at the DVD and Blu-ray top 10, starting at number 10 with Northern Soul.
Yeah, we said we were going to watch this just in case it was back into the top 10 this week, and I failed on that front.
Yeah, I failed as well. I've not had a chance, and I do want to see it because it does look interesting, because it's Steve Coogan not looking annoying.
Oh, intrigued.
You're completely not interested now, aren't you? After I said that.
Yeah, well, I didn't watch Alpha Papa, so.
Yeah. You should, because that's fantastic. But yeah. Going on to number 9, which is The Other Woman, which we said earlier you haven't seen yet, but it is a terrible film. It's quite bad. It's in my worst films of the year, because really just horribly written, horrible characters. You don't care for them, and it's not helping women's lib, which is what I think people are trying to make it be about. You know, women independence and female independence. And yet, if this is what female independence looks like, people are gonna have a field day with it, because it's awful. It really is. And it's, as I said, in my worst films of the year. I expect once Stuart sees it, it will be in our worst films of the year. And number 8 is The Little Mermaid.
Under the sea.
Are you going to do it with some gusto? Like, under the sea.
Under the water. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen The Little Mermaid myself. I think I was about 6 when I last saw it, or something like that. And that was a while ago.
God, I'm showing our age now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Another Disney film at number 7 with Sleeping Beauty.
Again, it's another film that I haven't seen in a very long time. Last time I saw this one was on TV. When they used to show Disney films a lot on television. That was the last time I saw Sleeping Beauty, because it's not aimed at our gender.
They are classic Disney films, though, aren't they? Sort of the good ones that before they started getting...
No, I like obviously the ones that are aimed at the male side, the Disney stuff, rather than the Sleeping Beauties or the Little Mermaids. I still rather watch something like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, even though that's very girl centric. It still has got the dwarfs in it, and they're awesome.
New entry at number 6 for The Vampire Diaries Complete Season 5.
I have never seen one single minute of The Vampire Diaries.
I saw one episode and I wasn't interested, so I've not seen it either, really, so can't say. Number 5 is Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a really good film. It's got a good premise to it. It never overcomplicates itself, but it's very well acted by Tom Cruise. It's just enjoyable.
At number 4, finally showing signs of dropping down and heading its way out of the top 10 again, is Frozen.
Yeah, not going to happen because Christmas is coming up. That's not going to happen. Frozen is going to be in the top 10 forever.
People just need to learn to let it go.
Oh, shut up.
I couldn't help myself. At number 3, another Disney film. Disney just ruling the top 10. Number 3 is Maleficent.
It's the live-action version of the film at number 7. But the film at number 7 is better than the film at number 3. So they should flip.
Different events, though. Sort of different...
Yeah, but they still should flip. Because one's better than the other.
And didn't manage to make it to number 1. The new film at the top... new film number 2 in the top 10 is Godzilla.
Even though I have problems with Godzilla in the last, I would say, 3/4 of the movie, because I think the first quarter is the best part of the movie, it should have easily trounced the film at number 1, and everybody who bought the film at number 1 should be really ashamed of themselves. But obviously, because of the kind of audience that it garners, it's obviously the reason why it went number 1. But Godzilla it's very well directed by Gareth Edwards. He's got a really good eye of being able to shoot films and being able to add spectacle to films. Because if you look at the scene where you see the soldiers just jump out of the plane, and it was in the advert, one of the teaser adverts for it, and you just see the red plume of smoke coming down from their feet. It's very well done, that scene there with the music in the background. Just a pity that the last 3/4 of the movie couldn't have had the impact of the first 30 minutes. And I'm apprehensively looking out my window at the moment, and there is a police car slowly going down my street. I've not done anything.
Okay.
Go by.
Okay, which means the number 1 movie, which you were saying, can't believe it did this, and I think the reason it did it is probably because it didn't do that well at the cinema, that people then stayed away and went, I'll see it when it comes out on DVD, which they have now, and they've made Mrs. Brown's Boys, the movie, go to number 1.
Yeah. I think it's because it's $7.99 in the 3-letter shop. That's
Really?
the reason why. Yeah, it's 7. Oh God, I wouldn't even buy it for 99 pence. It's rubbish. It's really rubbish. It's so self-aware of its funniness that it's just unbelievably crass and stupid.
Yeah, and we're not even fans of it, but people that are fans of it, I know, haven't been particularly overly struck with it. So.
These don't work. If you take a comedy series and make it for the big screen, they don't work. The proof is, if you look at previous casualties, like the In-Betweeners movies.
Well, I don't know about In-Betweeners, but Ali G, I agree with you. But the thing is, I've got to kind of say that's not true, because I don't like Alan Partridge, but I liked Alan Partridge, the movie.
Well, I haven't seen it, so I can't see it is true. But if you look at any film, big screen film, that's a spin-off from the TV programme, then they don't work. I'm not including things like Dad's Army, the movie, or whatever, because I don't think they were shown on a big screen. But they just don't work. So why can't you just realise they won't work and stop releasing them? Because I think we might end up getting a Royal Family, the movie. Ugh.
Oh dear. All right.
There's another Keith Lemon film coming, so the world is going to end when that releases.
Not it. Not seeing that when it comes out. That's your turn.
I'm blowing up my cinema if that's the case.
You shouldn't say things like that with the police driving past your street.
They've gone,
okay.
fine.
There's new releases this week then. The Fault in Our Stars, which is directed by Josh Boone. It is based on the novel, whose writer I don't have name here, sorry. It is following the character of Hazel, played by Shailene Woodley, who, as we're introduced at the start of the film, we learn the situation, obviously, that she has a stage 4 of a type of cancer. She's receiving sort of an experimental treatment which is keeping her alive and is sort of treating it. She's one of the rare people that she's worked on, so she's had sort of a sort of near-death experience before when she was younger. She's manages by walking around with a sort of an oxygen tank on her most of the time because of the fact that her lungs are damaged, so she's living her life but very, very sort of limited in that capacity, and going along to these sort of meetings that you have for people who are sufferers of cancer. She is there sort of and meets with Gus, or I forget what his name is now. They said
Ansel Elgort.
Ansel Elgort, but his character name, not just Gus, is it? It's Augustus.
Yes.
And meets with him, and the two of them sort of gets chatting once outside of their meeting. Here's a clip.
Let's go watch a movie.
Okay. I'm free later this week.
No, I mean now.
You could be an axe murderer. There's always that possibility.
Come on, Hazel Grace. Take a risk.
I don't... Really? That is disgusting.
What?
What, do you think that that's cool or something? You just ruined this whole thing.
The whole thing?
Yes, this whole thing.
Oh, man.
Even though you had freaking cancer, you're willing to give money to a corporation for the chance to acquire even more cancer? Let me just tell you that not being able to breathe sucks.
Hazel Grace, they don't actually hurt you unless you light them. I never lit one. It's a metaphor, see? You put the thing that does the killing right between your teeth. But you never give it the power to kill you. A metaphor.
So the two of them end up sort of becoming friends, and then eventually things get more and more stronger between them, and you can kind of guess where that's kind of going. But all the time there's this whole thing of the two of them having been sufferers of cancer, and he has lost one of his legs because of the fact that, and walks around with a prosthetic leg. She is then sort of walking around with this oxygen tank, and the whole thing of struggling to breathe if they do anything that's sort of like walking upstairs and such. And there's this whole thing in it that there's a moment where they're talking about this book that they've liked, and the person that wrote it, and it's not been a very successful book, but they get in touch with the writer, get contact back by email, and inviting them to go and meet the writer who lives in Amsterdam. So they go over to there and sort of see that and meet him and sort of see the sights a bit and all. And that is where this scene is sort of in the middle of the film. It's 2 hours long, and this scene there is where the film is at its strongest at certain points, but also has its weakest in that it drags out things and has things that feel as if they kind of feel sort of shoehorned in. They don't feel as if they fit in the movie properly. And I've heard about this, people saying this, because I heard reviews, I heard your review saying that as well when it originally came out in cinema. It's got those moments in it, and having gone through it and seen it, I agree that they don't work, but I think they couldn't be taken out, and the film could not be as powerful as it is without them, because the film is very emotionally powerful. You get towards the end of it, and you will have moments where it will bring tears to your eyes. It is a very powerful and enveloping, dramatic film, considering the young leads, and it's quite a gut punching film as well. It doesn't pull any of its punches as well with that. It's got these moments in it as well where you have the writer that they meet, played by William Dafoe, is kind of there, and he's a bit of an ass, shall we say, and the way that comes off as well, his performance is good, just as good, very different. And also there are moments like that are quite emotionally strong, but also bring in little moments of levity, and you're kind of sort of laughing. They're asking him sort of, he's written this one book, it leaves off with things, and he's not going to write another one, and they're asking, what happens to the characters after that. They want to know, and his answer to them is to basically play a Amsterdam hip hop kind of song, and it's things like that give it levity as well. So it's not just all the way through it you're mopey and upset and distressed and everything, but there are moments when you kind of laugh, and it brings you out of that, and that's what it gets a very good balance of throughout the film. It has moments that have heart, has moments that are painful, has moments that are funny, and it continues that all the way through. They have this also another friend they meet in the group who has cancer in his eyes and eventually is blind because he had to have his eyes removed, and it's things that they play with that as well, and it's a very nicely well put together thing, but it is just a bit too longer than it needs to be. But I can understand why it's too long, because those scenes, a big chunk in the middle, as I say, when they go to Amsterdam, has bits in it which there's basically 3 particularly strong emotional beats in those scenes in Amsterdam, and if they'd taken those out, it wouldn't have been as powerful a film as it is. So see it, bear with it for its length, but come out better at the end, because you will.
Right there, I have a little question to ask at the end of what I thought about the film, because I really like the film itself. I saw it on in the cinema, and so I saw it in the correct kind of audience. It wasn't an audience where people would just maybe going to have a bit of a giggle or whatever. There was people who went to see the film because they understood the movie. They understood what the film was about. It was the correct atmosphere to watch it at. I wonder how many people have gone through that kind of thing as well, who went to see the film, because I went through a similar problem myself. My brother, he got leukemia, and so I had to live with my mum while she was going backwards and forwards between two different hospitals, me being in one hospital, suffering from what I had, and my brother had the leukemia. So it was hard on her trying to do that. So I wonder how many people went through that kind of thing when watching the film. The film is brilliantly. It's brilliantly acted.
Yeah.
Both Ansel Elgort and Shailene Woodley. Shailene Woodley, she was just fantastic, and it was the first film I saw her in because I didn't see Divergent before.
It's nice to also see Laura Dern in there as well, because I haven't seen her in anything really for a while, and she gives a good performance as her mother, who's also dealing with the stress of this situation as well. So she's very good in it. I mean, you've got also Sam Tramiel in it, who's from most people will know him from True Blood. But Laura Dern's sort of a really good performance in there as well, and kind of stands out. But I'm not, personally speaking, I'm not someone who's had sort of that in my life. I've not, thankfully, touch wood, not had anyone sort of, in that situation. I know recently that I've had a friend whose one of their parents had passed away from cancer, and I pretty much guess that it would be quite a strong gut punch to them watching this because of the subject. But I mean, it's one of those things that unfortunately happens.
Yeah, I do believe though that the film itself, it becomes a bit too manipulative in the central section of the film when it does get to the Anne Frank house, where he is carrying her up the stairs. After she struggled, she wants to see the main room of Anne Frank, and I just felt.
As I say, that's one of those ones. There's 3 beats in it, and that's one of the beats that I think, if they took that out, it would save them a whole sort of 10-15 minutes in the film. But I think between those 2 characters, if that was taken out, you would miss it.
No, but the problem I had with it is I felt like the film itself never tried to manipulate you with its subject matter. Whereas that scene there felt like it didn't belong to the film, the way it was shot and the way it was handled. It felt like it belonged to a different film with the same subject, but it was handled differently. So it's just, I felt it didn't belong there. They didn't have to play it out the way it did, considering what it was trying to produce. I cried twice in the film. There was a couple of scenes, specifically one near to the end of the film itself. I'm not going to spoil it at all. I'll just say it was set in a church, which I did cry, and I don't mind admitting to the fact that I did cry, because that was the whole point of the film. It needed to make you cry. The thing that I'm interested to know is how difficult is it to sit down and watch a drama like this when you're reviewing it. Because I find dramas one of the hardest genres to actually sit down and watch, intentionally sit down and watch. As an action films are really easy to do that. Comedies are the same, horrors are the same. Dramas, you need to invest yourself more so into the film itself. But when you're trying to put a critical view on, I think it's even harder to try and look at a drama.
Well, the thing is, there's that thing of that if the film's good enough, you won't need to, and that's what this is good enough. This pulls you into it. It does that successfully enough that you can focus on that. You don't have to. It's not a piece of work to watch this film. It is a film that draws you in. It's not one of these films where you're watching it and you're going, oh, right, okay, I've got to watch this. I'm doing it. You start watching it and you get into it and you come at the end of it, you're like, I was in that. I was there. I was, and that's why. That's a sign of a good film. That's why this is that good. It is one of the ones that does that.
And for me also, I'm glad that I saw The Fault in Our Stars before I saw Divergent, because it maybe gave me the reason why I like Divergent more than I should have. Because Divergent, if the way I looked at Divergent, this is just from my point of view. The way I looked at Divergent is it just looked like another Hunger Games knockoff. The way I saw that film. But I saw The Fault in Our Stars, and I knew that I was going to be reviewing Divergent a little bit down the line, and I knew that after seeing The Fault in Our Stars, it had Shailene Woodley in it. Ansel Elgort's in it as well, but he's in a smaller role in Divergent. But it made me realise how much of a good actress she was in The Fault in Our Stars. And when I watched Divergent, how different she was and how she could handle a different character as well. She's not a one-dimensional person. I'm going to pick on her again, like Kristen Stewart. She's very one-dimensional in what she does. No matter what genre of film that she's doing it in, she doesn't bring anything different to the characters that she's playing. Whereas Shailene Woodley, in something like The Fault in Our Stars, to doing something completely different like Divergent, she showed she can handle different elements. And so I think that's maybe the reason why I also like Divergent more.
Well, the thing is, I'd already kind of had that because I'd seen her in The Descendants as well. So I'd already kind of been aware of her from that as well before seeing Divergent. This is the third film I've seen her in, and I agree, she's a very flexible actress and what she does with her roles, and I'm looking forward to seeing the next films in the Divergent series because they're going ahead. But I would just as easily gladly see her in something else if she's putting this effort into it.
Yeah, so would I. Right, final film then. Chef. It's directed by, written by, and starring Jon Favreau. This is sort of like him going away from, after doing things like big movies, like the Iron Man series, he's decided to do a movie for himself. This is a passion project, what a lot of actors normally do. Self-centered projects, the way I look at them. And in the film itself, he plays Chef Carl Casper, and he's a very, very good chef. He's brilliant at what he does. And the opening 10-15 minutes is just a montage of the dishes that he's able to cook and put them together. The problem is, though, he doesn't treat his home life the way he treats his work life. He sort of like neglects his son a little bit. Not like properly neglects his son, but he neglects his son a little bit. When he's saying that he's going to take him down to the park, he just goes, "Oh, I can't do it because I've got to work." He's more interested in his job. And one night when he's with the group of people who he works with, he reads a critic's scathing review of his cookery skills, of his restaurant that he works at. The fact that he only got 2 stars, not like bad that it's 1 star, or not the 5 stars that he was expecting. And he goes off on the handle with the critic in a scene where he ends up bursting into the restaurant itself after being fired, and he just starts to go completely mad. And this sort of like elevates him a little bit because the video, which is shot in the restaurant, goes viral thanks to his son and a few other people who managed to shoot it on their phones, and it gets viewed by millions of people. And so his character of Carl, he's a bit downtrodden. He's wondering if he's ever going to get a job. He decides to go to Miami with his ex-wife, who's played by Sofia Vergara. I nearly said Vera Farmiga there. Might have been different take on the film itself. Very different film, yeah. And his son. And while in Miami, he comes across a character who's played by Robert Downey Jr., who was also an ex of Sofia Vergara, and comes up with an idea of a food truck. Why don't they get this old dilapidated truck, build it up, and go cross-country with one of his sous chefs and his son, just so he can establish a relationship with his son, but show him what he does. Here's a clip.
Slow down for a second. Is this boring to you?
No, I like it.
Yeah, well, I love it. Everything that's good that's happened to me in my life came because of that. I might not do everything great in my life. Okay, I'm not perfect. I'm not the best husband. And I'm sorry if I wasn't the best father. But I'm good at this. And I want to share this with you. I want to teach you what I learned. I get to touch people's lives with what I do. And it keeps me going, and I love it. And I think if you give it a shot, you might love it too.
Yes, chef.
Now, should we have served that sandwich?
No, chef.
That's my son. Get back in there. We got some hungry people. He's ready to cook.
Now, I said this was a passion project, and that's exactly where it is. And I know what you think, but I'm going to shut you up for a moment before I let you loose and tell you what I thought. I don't agree with you. I don't think this is a particularly brilliant film. I think this is a very run-of-the-mill film itself, no pun intended with mill and the subject of the film itself is, because the fact that very little happens in the movie, apart from the scene where he goes completely off the handle, the movie just becomes very mundane and plodding for the rest of the running time. It doesn't feel like it's on for 2.5 hours, because the film itself is for 2 hours, and that flies by. It literally does fly by. It never drags. It's just very normal that if more attention was given to the film over the food, it would have been more interesting. The characters would have been fleshed out more so, rather than just being there for appearances. The only people who have sort of any kind of story to them is Jon Favreau's one, because it is a passion project and he's going to write the best character possible for himself. John Leguizamo one, and it's nice to actually see him get a proper role rather than just being thrown as a bad guy or a secondary character. And his son, who's played by MJ Anthony, who plays Percy. They're the only three characters who get any kind of story, and the story that they get is just so normal, so average. It's like watching a cookery program on TV, but a cookery program done as a comedy drama. And that's the way the film played out. It made me really hungry, hence why I was eating food while watching it. So at least I got through that. Very tasty food as well. But it just felt like there was nothing, no pop to the movie, no extra ingredient that would have made it slightly more spicy or more interesting than it was. It's just Jon Favreau going, I've got a few actor friends who want to do something a little bit different from doing the superhero movies that they've done, just for a few extra days. I'll get them into me film, but I'll make the rest of the film all about me.
I think you're completely off the rails with that.
No, it is. It's Jon Favreau going, I can act as well as I can direct. It's him enlarging his head even more so. And when you've got somebody like Jon Favreau, you don't want that to happen. His head to be the size of his stomach.
It is an ego project, but there's nothing wrong with that, and it's a film that it's got love. There is love in this film for him. You can see that he loves his whole thing of food, and that's the whole thing of that. And you've got the music and everything mixing in there, the Cuban style music and all of that, and the little bits of humour and stuff. And I think you're completely wrong. I think you and I have completely different opinions on this film, and I think you're so wrong on this.
It's like getting a souffle and you're looking at this souffle and it's just tempting. You want to grab hold of your spoon and dig into and hope that the centre is nice and gooey and inviting. But as soon as you dig in, it just becomes a very straightforward chocolate cake.
No, well, I disagree. I think there is more to it that you've maybe just not been in the movie for, or you're just not getting, or I don't know if maybe it just didn't work for you. But I think that it was fantastic. I absolutely loved it, and I agree that the time goes flying by, which is what I think is really good. It just, the word I want to use for this is opulent. It's so opulent, I think, with everything that's in it. It's so rich with everything that I think was in it. Of the whole, it does focus a lot on the food, but that's the point of it. It's a film called Chef. You know, it's a film about his character, so I don't have a problem with that.
I didn't have a problem with the fact that it focused on food, because I knew it was about food, but it needs to focus a lot on character as well. And when your characters is just, that's why I said if they focused more on the characters rather than just the food, it would have been a much more interesting film. There is very little backstory to any other characters apart from Jon Favreau's one and maybe his son. I know it's supposed to be a road trip movie about them trying to find each other, about him giving a chance to his life and saying, yeah, I've got a son, I need to make sure that my son knows who I am and what I do and what my passions is. But adding little extra bits of Cuban music here and there and just a few scenes of them cooking some sandwiches inside of a big massive truck, walking out of a truck and seeing a huge massive line, and then supposedly that's a lesson to teach his son, does not make a good or interesting film. It makes a film that is just somebody who's just thinking to himself, I'm a good actor, I'm a good director, I'll just write a role that's perfect for me then.
I completely disagree. That's it for this week's new releases, though. We've got just mention a couple other quick releases that are out this week. We're not going to review them, but it's worth mentioning that a classic that a lot of people will love and will want to get, With Now and I has finally got a Blu-ray release this week. So that's now available to get on Blu-ray. And the extended version of The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug has been released. It is now 3 hours and 5 minutes long, with all the additional footage it's put in there, and it has also the extra couple of discs which has the appendices and stuff that have become sort of, you know, the big thing of the extended edition. So if you've been collecting them as I have, I'm sure that you'll be getting that as well, because I've got that, and it's also the 3D version of it too is available as well, so that is out now as well.
There's also like the Ultimate Edition with bookends and stuff, which is ridiculously priced.
Yeah, so I'm not getting that because, to be honest, don't need it, but nice that they do that. I think it's nice to do things like that, as long as they're decent, because I like that sort of thing, but I don't get them that often. That's it for this week's show. We hope you've enjoyed listening. Don't know that we've entirely enjoyed doing it, given our different opinions of Chef. But
Shut up.
Going to go through quickly TV movies of the week. What have you picked? I've only picked one this week.
Go on, then you go first. I've got two.
Okay. My movie, the TV movie of the week I picked is Shooter. It's the Mark Wahlberg one, which I like the thriller aspect of it. It's got some action pieces, but I like that it's quite a good sort of drawn out thriller. It is on Saturday the 8th of November at 9 o'clock on Film 4. It's also followed by From Dusk to Dawn at 11 something too, so maybe a good double bill there.
I've got two as well. My first one is on Tuesday, so if you listen to us live tomorrow night, on 5 USA, surprisingly. It's a different channel. It's even though the film itself is stupid, it's stupidly stupid. It's directed by Neville Dillon Taylor. It's Crank. Crank is an absolute nut job of a movie, but it's so entertainingly nut job of a movie that I actually like it. Surprisingly, I know it's not my kind of movie.
I agree. I actually like it as well. It's so nutbar crazy, but fun.
It knows that it's nutbar crazy. And my other one is Memento, the Christopher Nolan film. It's on Film 4 on the very early Saturday morning, Saturday the 8th, at 1:25 a.m. in the morning. It's directed by Christopher Nolan. It stars Guy Pearce, and Guy Pearce is another one of the actors who I really love. I think he's a very diverse, fantastic actor. Memento, even though it'll make your head scratch, especially that time of the morning, it's still a very just important film to watch. It's one of Christopher Nolan's best films.
We're going to be seeing a whole bunch of his films on, I think, in the next coming week, obviously with the release of Interstellar next week, which I did try to get a clip for to play tonight, but there's no clips available, annoyingly, so they're really keeping everything under wraps. So we've got a clip of something else which comes out in a couple of weeks, which we'll go through in just a moment. Movie of the week.
It's hard for me this week because I've got 3 to choose from, and it's really difficult to choose. If I eliminate The Fault in Our Stars, because I think I named that my movie of the week when it was in the cinema.
It is very good, yeah.
So I'm just going to cop out and say double bill of Nightcrawler and Horns.
Right, I'm just going to say Nightcrawler. I would say maybe double bill of Nighthawker and Mr. Turner if you like Mr. Turner, but I'm going to say Nightcrawler definitely because really, really loved it. Really, really gritty, dark, and quite disturbing, but intentionally so.
And Horns for me, just because I want to see if people either agree with me or completely disagree with me, because it is that Marmite kind of film.
I need to see that because I haven't seen it and I want to see it, so I'll be trying to see that this week as well. As I say, that's it for this week. Quick shout outs as we normally do. You've got followingthenerd.com, from page 2screen.com with the number 2 in the middle, and also the charity we do recommend to please have a look and see if you can help them out at all. Seren Foundation, SEREN foundation.org.uk. Can always find us on mondaymovieshow.co.uk, which now has the Fast and Furious 7 trailer on there.
Woohoo!
No, because I sneakily did that during the show.
I saw.
And you can also find links to the show on there. You can also find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Monday Movie Show. You can email us, mondaymovieshow@yahoo.com, if you've got any feedback for us or any comments on any of the week's new films that will most likely be in the top 10 next week. Then send those to us. And also, you can find us on Twitter @Monday Movie Show. Stuart's on there @Cryptic Tadpole. I'm on there @AHDVD. So, until next week, when, among other things, I think we'll be covering a little film called Interstellar. It comes out on Friday. But in a couple of weeks' time, there is also a fantastic film, take it from me, someone that I've actually seen it already, You have the Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch playing the creator of the Enigma cracking machine, which comes out on November the 14th. We have a clip for you. We're going to play that out to you. Until next week, bye-bye.
Adios.
That's what you're doing here, the top secret program at Bletchley. You're trying to break the German Enigma machine.
What makes you think that?
It's the greatest encryption device in history, and the Germans use it for all major communications. If the Allies broke Enigma, well, it would turn into a very short war indeed. Of course, that's what you're working on. But you also haven't got anywhere with it. If you had, you wouldn't be hiring cryptographers out of university. You need me a lot more than I need you. I like solving problems, Commander. And Enigma is the most difficult problem in the world.
No, Enigma isn't difficult, it's impossible. The Americans, the Russians, the French, the Germans, everyone thinks Enigma is unbreakable.
Good. Let me try, and we'll know for sure, won't we?